Right during the reading of the will, my daughter-in-law told me to get out of their lives. It broke something in me. But that's not even the worst part. I'm glad to have you here. Follow my story until the end, and comment the city you're watching from so I can see how far my story has reached. My name is Frank Walters. I'm 72 years old, and I used to drive trucks for a living. 35 years behind the wheel freight. Produce. Even horses once or twice. The road gave me calloused hands and a bad back. But it also gave me a sense of purpose. That. And my wife Nancy. She was the only home I ever needed when Nancy passed 3 years ago. The house went quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that doesn't ease up. Not even with the radio on. My son Travis offered to have me move in with him and his wife. "Lindsay," he said. "Dad, you shouldn't be alone in that old house. Come live with us. You can help out with Lila." Lila, my only grandchild. Just 5 years old at the time, with a laugh that could melt frozen concrete. At first, it felt like grace. I'd read to her after dinner, push her on the swing in the backyard. Lindsay even called me Dad sometimes. Travis worked long hours at the dealership, so I'd cook, mow the lawn, fix whatever needed fixing. It gave me something to do, some sense that I still mattered. Then things started to shift. Subtle. At first, Lindsay started leaving me off the dinner texts. I'd come inside and find them halfway through a meal, plates already half cleared. When I asked, she'd say, "Oh, I thought you were napping," or "Didn't you already eat?" Lila wasn't allowed to play in the shed anymore, the same shed I'd turned into a little workshop, with tools hung up neatly, birdseed on the shelf. Then, on my birthday, Lindsay handed me a box of socks and said, in front of everyone, "Frank, we've been thinking it's probably better if you move your things to the shed. The guest room's going to be the new playroom for Lila." Travis didn't say a word, just stared into his cake. And Lila? She looked confused, like she knew something was wrong but couldn't quite name it. I told myself it was temporary, just a phase. People change when life gets busy. Right. But that was the beginning of the unraveling. The place I thought I could grow old in had become a place where I felt like a burden. A ghost walking past windows where no one waved anymore. Still, I never expected what would come next. Not until that knock at the shed door, and the man holding the envelope that would shake everything loose. After Nancy's funeral, the days stretched out like long, empty roads. I'd wake up and forget for a second she was gone, reach across the bed, only to find cool sheets and quiet air. The house still smelled like her lavender lotion. Sometimes, I'd leave the TV on just for the sound. I'm Frank, 72. Spent most of my life behind the wheel of a semi. I hauled everything from produce to furniture across this country. 35 years on the road, calloused hands and a spine that doesn't sit quite straight anymore. But Nancy, she was my anchor. Every time I walked through the front door and saw her standing there, well, that was home. Travis, our only son, took the loss hard too. But he had his family to keep him busy, his wife, Lindsay, and their daughter. Lila, one day. He called and said, "Dad, you shouldn't be alone in that big house. Come stay with us for a while. Lila would love having you here." I didn't need much convincing. Truth is, I was lonely. And I missed being around life laughter, movement, little feet running around. They fixed up the guest room for me, painted it sage green. Lindsay even bought new towels just for me, folded neat on the bed like I was checking into a hotel. At first, it felt like grace. I'd sit on the porch in the mornings with a cup of coffee, watching the neighborhood wake up. Lila would crawl into my lap after preschool and ask for stories about the trucks I used to drive. I taught her how to plant marigolds. Travis worked long hours at the dealership, so I'd help around the house mowing, cooking, tightening drawer handles. It gave me a reason to get out of bed. Dinners were warm back then. We'd gather around the table, Travis cracking dad jokes, Lindsay serving up casseroles, Lila spilling peas and giggling at her own mess. It wasn't perfect, but it was family. I thought maybe this is what healing looks like. Lindsay was kind in those early months. She'd pour my coffee in the morning, ask how I slept. She even called me Dad once or twice, when she forgot herself. I tried not to overstep. I knew this wasn't my house, but I also felt like I was helping hold it together, fixing things when they broke, keeping Lila company, being a steady presence when Travis was too tired to talk. There was peace in that rhythm, a quiet kind of belonging. But the thing about silence is, sometimes it comes before the storm. I don't remember exactly when it started. That's the thing with slow changes, they sneak in quiet, like a draft under the door. You don't notice it until the whole room feels colder. It began with the dinners. One night I came in from watering the azaleas, and they were already halfway through their meal, plates clinking, Lila chattering about preschool. No one had called me in. When I asked, Lindsay said, "Oh, I thought you were napping," said it so smoothly, like I was the one being forgetful. I brushed it off. People get busy, schedules shift. But then it happened again. And again. Some nights I'd eat leftovers alone at the counter, pretending it didn't sting. Pretending the silence didn't feel different now, not peaceful, but pointed. Then Lindsay started organizing my days. "You don't need to pick Lila up from school anymore," she said one morning, handing me a note about aftercare. "It gives her more structure." I told her I didn't mind. That Lila liked our walks home, collecting leaves and telling me which clouds looked like dragons. Lindsay gave me a tight smile. "It's not about what you mind." Frank, I stopped pushing. Didn't want to cause waves. Didn't want Travis to come home to tension. But I started noticing things. My toolbox moved out of the garage. The shed cleaned out without asking. Then, one afternoon, Lindsay walked into the living room holding a folded blanket. "We're going to turn the guest room into a playroom," she said, not looking up from the blanket. "It's better if you move your things out to the shed." I blinked. "The shed? It's got windows. We can set up a little cot and a space heater. You'll have privacy." Privacy. Like a stray dog tied up outside to stop it from scratching the furniture. Travis said nothing when I looked at him. Just shifted his eyes to the floor like it was tiled with landmines. I knew then the decision had already been made. That night. I slept in the shed with my knees aching from the cold and a birthday card from Lila tucked under my pillow. She had drawn us both holding hands in front of the house, big crooked hearts floating above our heads. She didn't know. But Lindsay did. My 70th birthday came 2 weeks later. No balloons, no cake, just a polite dinner and a pair of socks wrapped in brown paper. When I opened them, Lindsay clapped like it was some grand gesture. "You said your feet get cold," she said. I looked across the table. Travis was chewing in silence. Lila picked at her peas, glancing at me with that puzzled look kids get when something feels wrong but no one will say it out loud. I forced a smile. Said thank you. Told them the socks were soft. But in my chest, something small curled up and shivered. It wasn't just a shift in behavior anymore. It was a shift in place, in worth, in where I stood in their lives, and how easily I could be moved. It was a Tuesday afternoon, the kind where the sun shines but doesn't warm you. I was in the shed, fiddling with an old birdhouse Lila and I had built months ago. The paint was chipped. A tiny splinter had come loose from the perch. I remember thinking, I should ask Lila if she wants to repaint it with me this weekend. Maybe it was foolish, but I still hoped. That's when I heard it. The window was cracked open, and Lindsay's voice carried from the kitchen phone. She must have thought no one was listening. No, he still doesn't know, she said, laughing softly. He thinks he's some sweet old grandpa. But come on, Lila isn't even his real granddaughter. My hands froze. She kept talking. Travis doesn't want to stir things up. But honestly, it's pathetic. He's clinging to a fantasy. And we're the ones stuck with him. She paused. No. Of course she doesn't know. He's just a placeholder to her. We're not going to let him ruin everything just because he thinks he has a claim. I didn't breathe. I don't even remember blinking. I stood there, gripping that half-broken birdhouse like it could anchor me to the earth. My fingers were shaking. My chest felt hollow, like someone had scooped out my insides with an ice cream scoop and left nothing but a shell. Not my real granddaughter. I stumbled back from the window, heart hammering. I sat down hard on the cot, staring at the tools I'd once proudly hung with care. The air felt different, thinner, like even the walls had turned cold on me. Was it true, I thought back? Lila's first steps, the bedtime stories, the time she called me her favorite grown-up. All those memories, were they just illusions? A lie. I told myself to stay needed no. I couldn't believe it. I wouldn't believe it. Not yet. But still, the seed was planted, and with it came a grief deeper than anything I'd felt since Nancy died. Because this wasn't just about being unwanted. This was about being erased, rewritten out of the one role that had kept me going. A knock on the shed door pulled me from my thoughts. It was Travis. "Dinner's ready," he mumbled. I looked at him differently then, wondering. Did he know? Was he part of it? I wanted to ask. I really did. But the words got stuck behind the lump in my throat. I just nodded that night. I couldn't eat. I just sat at the table while Lila told a story about a dragon who guarded a treasure made of marbles and cookies. Her eyes lit up as she spoke. And for a moment, I forgot everything. But then Lindsay cleared the plates early, and Lila was rushed to bed, and I was left staring at the last smear of mashed potatoes on my plate. Have you ever been treated unfairly by your own family? Share your experience in the comments. Someone out there may need to hear it. I walked back to the shed under a sky full of stars I couldn't appreciate. I sat in the dark for a long time. The birdhouse on my lap. The chipped paint flaked onto my jeans, and all I could think was, if I'm not her grandfather, then what am I? It was a gray morning, the kind where the sky looks like it forgot how to shine. I was sitting in the shed, sipping lukewarm coffee from a chipped mug, when I heard a knock, 3 soft taps on the wooden door. Not Travis, not Lindsay, and Lila was at school. I opened it cautiously, and standing there was a man I didn't recognize, maybe mid-30s, button-down shirt, nervous eyes. "Are you Frank?" he asked, voice low. I nodded. "Can I help you?" He hesitated, then glanced over his shoulder, like he wasn't sure he should be there. "My name's Daniel. I know this is going to sound strange, but I need to talk to you about Lindsay and your granddaughter." That name Lindsay hit me like a cold wind. I stepped aside, motioned him in. We sat across from each other, knees almost touching in the tight space. He didn't waste time. I dated Lindsay years ago, back when she worked at the insurance office in town. I just listened. She got pregnant, And then she disappeared. She wouldn't return my calls, blocked me. I never even got the chance to ask questions. She just cut me out. He paused. I never knew for sure. But someone told me quietly that she'd married, had a daughter named Lila. And when I saw her picture on her husband's Facebook page, he pulled out his phone and handed it to me. There was Lila, holding a cupcake, frosting on her nose. She looks like my sister did at that age. He said quietly. I didn't speak for a long time. Finally, I asked, why come to me? I figured if what I suspect is true, then you're in this, too. And from the way she cut me off, I doubt she'd ever allow a test willingly. I needed someone who might care enough to help. My heart was pounding. Could it really be? Was this the answer to that awful phone call I overheard? You want a DNA test? I said flatly. He nodded. Just to know. I thought about Lila, her tiny hand in mine, her giggle, the bedtime stories. Did biology even matter at this point? Did it change the love I had for her? But still, something inside me whispered, you deserve to know the truth. All of you do. I swallowed hard and said, okay, let's do it. But quietly. We agreed to meet again in a week. Daniel would handle the kit. I'd find a way to get what we needed without raising alarms. As he left, he turned and said, thank you. No matter how this turns out, thank you. I watched him walk down the driveway, past the house where I used to feel welcome, and I realized this wasn't just about DNA. It was about uncovering what had been buried, and maybe, just maybe, getting my voice back in a story where I'd been written out too long. The envelope sat between us on the workbench. Daniel didn't move to open it right away. His fingers just hovered over the flap, trembling. Mine were clasped together so tightly, my knuckles were bone white. You ready? He asked. I nodded, though I wasn't. He tore it open carefully, like it might explode. His eyes darted across the page, scanning until they landed on the numbers. He read them aloud, voice cracking. Probability of paternity, 99.8%. For a moment, there was no air in the shed, just silence. Then a long, low exhale from both of us. So, he whispered, she's mine. I sat back on the stool, dizzy, not because I didn't expect it deep down. I think I knew. But hearing it out loud made it real. It made everything I'd built with Lila feel like borrowed time. Daniel looked at me, eyes full of something between awe and guilt. I didn't know. Lindsay, she just vanished. I looked for her for months. I only found out where she lived 2 weeks ago. I nodded again. My voice wasn't ready to work yet. I thought of the bedtime stories, of Lila clinging to my arm during thunderstorms, of the birdhouse we built together, still hanging crooked outside the shed window. Was all of that fake? No, it couldn't have been. She doesn't know. I finally said. Daniel shook his head. Neither of them do. And then it hit me. Lindsay had kept this secret for years, used it like a weapon. She'd cut me off little by little, made me feel like an intruder. Not because I'd done something wrong, but because I was too close. I was getting in the way. She didn't want me forming bonds. She wanted silence, isolation, control. And poor Travis, he had no idea. He loved that little girl with everything he had, raised her like his own, bought her a bicycle with pink streamers, stayed up late building a dollhouse on Christmas Eve, all while living in the dark. I wanted to storm inside, wave the paper in Lindsay's face, and scream. But then I thought of Lila, She was innocent in all this. She didn't choose her parents. She didn't ask for any of this drama. All she ever wanted was to be loved. And I did love her, more than I ever thought possible. So what now, if I told Travis? It would shatter his world. If I told Lila, it might destroy her childhood. But if I said nothing, I'd be letting a lie fester, one that had already poisoned too many quiet dinners and stolen too many hugs. I looked at Daniel. "What do you want to do? I want to be in her life," he said. But gently. No big courtroom drama. No yelling in the front yard. Just honest steps. Maybe starting with you. Me. The man who wasn't her blood. Who wasn't even welcome in the main house anymore. Who lived in a shed with a folding cot and an old coffee maker. I swallowed hard. She deserves the truth. But not like this. Not dropped like a bomb. He nodded. So we made a pact. We'd give it time. Let the truth rise carefully, like bread in a warm oven. We'd figure out a way to tell her without tearing down everything around her. That night, I sat on my cot and stared at the envelope. The numbers blurred together in the dim lamplight. I thought of Nancy, what she'd say if she were here. Probably something gentle and wise, with a side of sharp sass. Then I folded the paper, slid it into my Bible, and turned off the light. Tomorrow, I'd still be Grandpa Frank, but now I carried the weight of truth. I set the table myself. Just 4 plates. Nothing fancy chicken. Potatoes. Green beans. I even folded the napkins. After all, I wasn't here to start a war, just to bring a little truth into a house that had forgotten what truth felt like. I invited them in like I always used to. Travis hesitated at first, standing in the doorway of the shed like it was a foreign country. Lindsay followed behind, arms folded, already annoyed. Lila was out with a neighbor. Thank God. When they sat, the silence was heavy, not tense, just expectant. I cleared my throat. "Thanks for coming. I know this is unusual." Lindsay gave a tight smile. "You wanted to talk about something?" I nodded. I slid the envelope across the table. Daniel's test results sat inside. "I'd like you both to read this." Travis opened it. His eyes scanned the page, brow tightening. He looked at me, then at Lindsay. "What is this?" Lindsay didn't even flinch. Probably some scam. "He's been acting strange lately." "Travis." I ignored her and turned to my son. Her name is Lila, but her biological father's name is Daniel. He came to me a few weeks ago. He was in a relationship with Lindsay before she left town. Didn't know she was pregnant. Travis froze. Lindsay scoffed. "That's ridiculous. You're just trying to stir things up." I didn't want to believe it either. I said, "But the DNA test doesn't lie. Daniel is Lila's father. 99.8% certainty." The words sat there like a crack in the dinner table. Travis blinked fast, as if trying to wake himself up. "Lindsay, is this true?" She looked him dead in the eyes, and for a moment, I saw it fear, then her jaw set. He left me. I had no choice. I didn't think he'd ever come back. "That's not what happened," I said. "Daniel looked for you. He just didn't know where to start. You made sure of that." Her voice rose. "So what? You want to replace Travis as her dad now. You want to tear this family apart." I shook my head. "No. I just want the lies to stop. I've sat by and watched myself be erased from this house, from Lila's life, from dinners and birthdays. But this crossed a line." Lindsay stood up. "We don't need this, Travis. Come on." But Travis didn't move. He looked at me. Not like a son looks at a father, but like a man searching for an anchor. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" he asked, voice raw. "Because I didn't want to break you. I said, I wanted to give you a chance to hear the truth with your own ears, in a place where no one was shouting." He leaned back in his chair, hand over his mouth. I turned to Lindsay. "I won't be erased, not by lies, not by silence. I may not be Lila's blood, but I've been her grandfather every single day of her life. That doesn't just disappear because the truth came knocking." Travis looked at his wife, and for the first time in a long time, I saw something shift in his face, not rage, not denial, just realization. And maybe, just maybe, the start of something honest. A few days passed after the dinner. Quiet ones. Travis didn't come to the shed. Lindsay avoided me entirely. Lila knocked once or twice, but I think she could feel something had shifted. Kids always can. I didn't push. I'd done what I came to do, placed the truth on the table, and stepped back. What they did with it was up to them now. Then, on a Wednesday morning, as the sun broke through the curtains and spilled onto my workbench, Travis showed up. He didn't knock, just walked in, holding a photo in his hand, one I hadn't seen in years. It was Nancy, holding baby Lila in her arms, her eyes full of that stubborn kind of love that made people feel seen. "I found this in the attic," he said, voice rough. "Didn't even know we still had it." I waited. Travis sat across from me, folding the photo in his palms like it was sacred. "I don't know what to believe anymore." He finally said, "Everything I thought was solid, just cracked." I nodded. I know that feeling. Oh, that. She lied to me. About Daniel, about Lila, about so much more. Probably. She was scared. I said, "But scared people don't get to rewrite the truth. That's how families rot from the inside out." He looked at me then. Really looked. "I let her push you away. I saw it, and I stayed quiet. You thought you were keeping peace," I said gently. "But silence doesn't keep peace. It just buries the noise until it explodes." He didn't argue, just stared at the photo. "I want to make things right." He said, "I don't know how, but I want to try." That was enough for me. Later that week, Travis sat down with Daniel. It wasn't easy. There were tears, hard questions, long silences, but no one raised their voice. No one stormed out. Lindsay moved out shortly after. She needed space. She said, maybe she did, but for the first time. It wasn't me who was asked to leave. The house felt different. Not healed, not yet, but open. Like a window had finally been cracked after a long, stuffy winter. Lila came to visit the shed more often. She didn't ask questions at first, just sat with me, asked if we could fix the broken birdhouse, one afternoon. She looked up from the paint and asked, "Are you still my grandpa?" I smiled. "That depends. Are you still my pirate?" She grinned. "Tooth missing. Aye, we didn't need blood for that." Later that summer, we built her a new treehouse, Travis, Daniel, and I, the three of us, hammering side by side. No one said it, but we all felt it. Some families are chosen. Some are stitched back together with splinters and effort and time. I wasn't erased. I was redrawn. Bolder this time. And if you're still watching, still listening to this story from wherever you are, remember this: you don't need to share blood to stand your ground. You don't need permission to matter. And silence only wins if you let it. If this story touched you, Don't forget to like and subscribe. I have more stories to share, and I'd be honored to have you with me next time. And if you made it this far, thank you. I'm Frank Walters. Still standing. Still someone's grandpa. The porch creaks beneath my chair as I lean back. A mug of lukewarm tea resting in my palms. The late afternoon sun filters through the maple leaves, painting golden patterns on the floorboards. Lila's out in the yard, chasing butterflies with a plastic net that's seen better days. Every now and then, she glances back to make sure I'm still watching. I always am. The house behind me is quieter now. No more tense dinners, no more walking on eggshells, just the hum of the fridge, the ticking of the kitchen clock, and laughter, real laughter coming from the backyard. Nancy would have loved this kind of day. I think about her often, not with pain anymore, but with that soft ache that never really goes away. She'd have had a few choice words for Lindsay, I'm sure. But mostly, I think she'd be proud. Proud I didn't let bitterness rot me. Proud I fought for my place without throwing punches. Proud I stayed steady when the ground gave out. The family I had broke in places I never expected. But what's left, what's grown back, feels stronger. Not perfect, but real. Daniel still comes by. He and Travis talk now. Sometimes for hours on that same porch swing I fixed up last fall. They don't compete. They just show up for Lila, for each other, for me, even. And Lila. That girl still runs full speed into my arms like I'm the only grandpa that's ever mattered. And maybe I am. No court papers, no screaming matches, just the truth, and the quiet work of healing. I didn't reclaim a house. I reclaimed something better. My name, my worth, my place. So if you're sitting there wondering whether it's too late, whether you're too old, too forgotten, too far gone, I want you to hear me now sometimes. The people who try to erase you end up reminding the world exactly who you are. And you're not done yet. Thank you for staying with me. If this story touched you, don't forget to like and subscribe. We share stories like this every week. See you in the next one.